Hi, friends. Welcome back to Kay's Kitchen, and you are cooking with Kay. Listen, be sure to hit subscribe and be sure to turn on your post notifications so you know every time I post a new video. Today, we are working with some steak. I'm fresh off work, so I'm doing something quick and fast. I'm going in with some Dan-O's seasoning. Dan-O's is low in sodium and it's damn good, so feel free to go out with this seasoning. Now keep in mind, friends, that when you're working with thin steak or thin meat in general, you don't want to go heavy on seasonings that have a lot of salt because your meat will easily become very salty. So be careful of this. I've made that mistake so many times. Now I went in with some blackened seasoning and then I had added some onion powder. You'll see me working with blackened seasoning in almost everything that I make because that's my favorite. Now I'm going in with some smoked paprika. Smoked paprika is delicious. Don't let nobody tell you it doesn't have flavor because my mom told me it has flavor. And at first I was like, it really doesn't. But then when I started to really use it again, it started to actually have flavor. And it gives color to your meat, a beautiful color. So you guys see how I didn't go crazy on the salt because again, one, the meat is thin. This is a very thin steak. So you don't want to go crazy on the salt. A little will do, trust me. Your meat will not be under seasoned because for one, you got that Dan-O's carrying flavor. You got the onion powder. So your meat will not be under seasoned, I promise you. So on the back, I'm going to pretty much repeat the same seasonings that I did on the front. I used the Dan-O's. Notice that I didn't go heavy on the back. I can't even tell you how many times I made a mistake before I finally got the hang of how to get a really good steak because I like thinner steak. Thinner steak is more easier to work with. It's more easier to chew, easier to eat and enjoy. Now you can go heavy on seasonings that are like onion powder and stuff like that because it doesn't contain salt. Now you'll notice in this video how on the back of the steak I did not add salt. But when I tell you that steak, honey, it was steaking for real. And yes, I listen, they say if you ain't sneezing, it ain't seasoned. I was sneezing my head off with these seasonings. And don't worry, I was sneezing in my shoulders. And your meat should be evenly seasoned, well seasoned. And I rub the meat because that helps the seasoning get in the meat. And now I'm going in with some minced garlic. This is going to help the flavors really pop. So I'm going to put in like a tablespoon of minced garlic. Not even that. But I mean, according to your liking, you don't have to do this part, but this is just a Kay's thing, okay? So what you do to the front, you definitely want to do to the back, minus the salt. Because I'm telling you, when you cook, when you put that steak on the stove, those seasonings are going to simmer through the meat. So you're better off with not putting no salt on the back. Because once you already, because listen, I'm telling you, trust me on this. So now we're going to add some butter to a pan. Listen, you know it's an old pan when you see them brown stains in there. Now here, while we're letting that butter in that pan melt, here we're gonna do 4 eggs because I'm doing 2 sandwiches, so it's 2 eggs per sandwich. So I did 4 eggs. I wanted to slow this down for those who have trouble with really cracking eggs. Maybe you're discouraged when it comes to cracking eggs because you always get shells in there. Listen, friend, when it comes to cracking eggs, take your time. Speed will come along the way. Just take your time. Take your time when cracking eggs. Really, there's no rush to this thing. Just gently tap on the counter, Slightly stick your finger in the crack and pull the shells apart. I just wanted to slow that down for those that have trouble with cracking eggs. If you're expert, then just ignore this part, okay? Remember guys, Kay's Kitchen is an educational channel. This is for those that don't know how to cook. We are starting with the basics. So now it looks like we got our butter melted in our pan. And then now what we're gonna do is add our steak to the pan. Now while that steak is cooking, we're gonna go ahead and season our eggs. I do black pepper, of course salt. Most people just stop right there, but I keep going. I add a little bit of milk. That's gonna help the egg stretch and give it a lot of moisture. And then of course that blackened seasoning, my favorite. Trust me guys, try it. And then maybe some of you are very discouraged because maybe when you season your eggs always come out salty. The best way I've learned how to do it, friend, is just season lightly. Season, because really eggs does not take a lot to season. And how I do it is I make sure I have a lot of salt, or not a lot of salt, but like salt. I make sure the salt covers each egg yolk. And that's how I know, okay, that's enough. And then I pour a little bit of milk. You don't need a lot. You can add as much as you want, but I use just a little. And then of course, oh, look at me making a mess. And then of course you're going to go ahead and stir it up. When I tell you them eggs came out so juicy and so flavorful. All right, so now here I had flipped the steak off camera to another pan. I'm going to add more butter. And then we can go back to that steak, flip it again. See, it's starting to get really nice, and I'm going to turn it off because you don't want your steak overcooked. Now here on the bagel bread, which we're going to be using, I was going to use a garlic and herb cream cheese, but unfortunately your girl Kay forgot to take it out. So it's frozen. I was upset about it, guys. So now that we got that butter melted, we're going to let the pan sit. Listen. And then now what I'm doing is getting regular original cream cheese. Again, I live by myself. I'm single, so some of the stuff you may see me do is unsanitary, but trust me, when I cook for other people, I am very sanitary as possible. Then I'm going to grab a plate and we're going to start the formation of our sandwiches. Now, while I'm doing this, there's butter sitting in a pan getting hot. Now, in order to get a really good fried egg, you don't want to put your eggs in too soon. You want that pan to get nice and hot so that when you add the eggs to the pan, it'll get that sizzle. It'll start to sizzle. And see, now it's nice and hot and you'll hear the simmer. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit. We're not going to sit there and stir these eggs until they scramble. No, let them eggs cook, child. Now we're going in with the cheese. Colby Jack cheese is what we're using. Now this is the part where I had cut the steak because it was nice and done. That steak was so juicy and so tender. It was delicious. So full of flavor. Look at that. It was smoking hot. Now here is me cutting off a piece to try it. Friends, don't be afraid to try your food. Now when you're making food for others, of course don't be taking... Okay, so I got excited. But when you're making food for others, don't be taking food off. Don't take pieces of their food off to try it. No, you make theirs and then you make you some and then you try your food. Now the eggs are ready. Now we're going to start... getting the cream cheese on the bagels. Gonna spread it evenly. Now guys, I would recommend setting the cream cheese out before you start this whole entire process, because when I tell y'all that cream cheese was fighting me to lay flat on that bread. So it's best to, if you want like a nice spread, it's best to have the cream cheese sitting at room temperature. Now we're adding our steak on top of the cream cheese. Now what you see me doing here is cutting off the fat. I'm not too big on fat, so I had to cut off some of that fat because your girl Kay does not do that. Now I'm adding the egg on top of the steak. So we have our cream cheese, we have our steak, we have our eggs, and now we are on top of the eggs we're gonna put the Colby Jack cheese. Now mind you guys, I was fresh off work. I'm sitting here thinking I had the bagel right side up, but when it dawned on me, I was like, oh snap, I done did this backwards. So originally guys, at the bottom of the bagel you would put the cream cheese, the steak, the eggs, the cheese, and then the top of the bun would go on top. So I was planning to do it right this second round, but I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter. So now I'm just repeating what I did with the first one. Again guys, this is not my best, so please don't judge. I'm fresh off work. I mean, when I tell you I'm drained, I'm tired. So and there I was eating my eggs, because man, I'm telling you, those eggs were so good. And let me be transparent. Don't ever get the Great Value Colby cheese. Don't get the, listen, when you're dealing with cheese, period, don't get the Great Value brand, because I'm convinced it's not real cheese and it melts terribly. So we're going to put that in the microwave for a total of 2 minutes. That's all you need. You're just pretty much giving that cheese time to melt. There it is, guys. Listen, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for your support, friends. I love you guys so much. Be sure to tell all of your friends about Kay's Kitchen. Let them know that we're learning, we're growing, and we're doing new things every single day. Be sure to turn on your post notifications so you know next time I post. See you guys. Love you.